Hey everyone, it's Paul with your Bold Profits Daily Special Bitcoin Halvening Edition. As many of you know from watching the IanCast, we've been talking about the halvening, or as Ian likes to call it, the halving, for about 3 or 4 months now, and it is now here. I'm recording this on Monday, which is the day that the halvening is set to happen at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon approximately. And so I want to lay out what is going on, what I believe is going to happen, and why I believe this is going to be an incredibly, phenomenally positive thing for the price of Bitcoin. So first of all, for those of you that may be new to the idea of buying into Bitcoin, let me just lay out why I'm positive on Bitcoin. The number one thing that I like about Bitcoin and why I believe its price can skyrocket higher is that it is the very first true all digital asset. It was conceived digitally, it is made digitally, it is distributed digitally, and so it is in its own way the very first of its kind. And if you look in human society, things that are first, that are accepted and adopted, they tend to have the greatest value, keep value, and also continue to gain value and rise in price. So that in many ways is the beginnings of Bitcoin. Then when you look at it from the perspective of Bitcoin's properties, Bitcoin has 3 properties that make it a far better store of value than the vast majority of things that we currently use as a store of value. I'm talking about things like gold, precious metals, various assets like that, or for that matter, the vast majority of the world's currencies. I will say that the US dollar, for the most part, has been a fairly good currency. However, when you go look around the world, the vast majority of currencies around the world are terrible. They, over time, almost all of them go to zero, lose their purchasing power, and that means that people in those countries have no way to store their value. So that is the second reason for why I believe that Bitcoin is going to continue to get people that are going to come and buy it. And as they come and buy it, they're going to bid it up. Now, as a store of value, there are several things that make Bitcoin really appealing and more appealing than gold. And some of you might know that I refer to Bitcoin as digital gold, which is that number one thing is that it is actually finite. Actually finite. There's only 21 million Bitcoin that can ever be mined, ever. So right now we're about 18.4 million Bitcoin that have been mined, and it's going to take an additional 20 years or so because of the way Bitcoin is set up to be halved and mined for the remaining number of Bitcoin to be actually mined. So it is actually finite, unlike gold, where a small, however, some amount of additional gold is added to the system every single year. So that's number one. Second is that Bitcoin is portable. Any person can buy Bitcoin, certainly in the United States, either through the Square Cash app, the Robinhood app, Coinbase. There's any number of other exchanges that allow you to buy it, and you can carry it just on your phone. You do not need to carry it as in a brick form, let's say gold or in a gold bar of some kind. And so it is much more portable, much more practical to carry around. And we've already seen any number of people fleeing regimes, whether it be in Venezuela or Iran, have used Bitcoin as a store of value to take their wealth and to flee. So it is much, much more practical and usable as a way of storing wealth and then taking it as you might leave. So we've got 2 of those things, which is one is that it's finite in a real, complete, and permanent way. Second, it is much more portable. And the third thing about Bitcoin that makes it also a very usable and desirable asset is that it is much more divisible than something like gold. Bitcoin is divisible to 8 digits. So for example, in countries around the world where their currencies are worth very little, they can buy tiny, tiny amounts of Bitcoin. It is divisible by a very small number. And so as a result, a lot of people, whether it be in places like Nigeria, Argentina, or other places like that, they can buy Bitcoin in fairly small amounts and store their value in there. And even with the extraordinary volatility of Bitcoin, it has been a far better store of value than any of those currencies. So now that I've covered Bitcoin in terms of why it matters, what its properties are, let's talk about the halvening and why this matters. So today, what is going to happen is that people who mine Bitcoin, and by mine, it means you're essentially making Bitcoin by doing this mathematical puzzle using very fast computers and computer chips. The reward for mining Bitcoin used to be 12.5 Bitcoin, and today at about 2 o'clock, it's going to get halved. That's why it's called a halvening or the halving, and it's going to be 6.25. And there will be another halvening in another 4 years, where it will once again be halved to 3.125, and there'll be additional halvenings until there are no more Bitcoin to be mined. And so why does this matter if you own Bitcoin? Well, if I am right and that the demand for Bitcoin is going to, at the very least, stay consistent, however, I believe that it's actually going to rise because there are a lot of people around the world, as I mentioned, that would like to use a store of value. Frankly, even in the United States, there are a lot of people that are using Bitcoin either to speculate with or else to use it as a store of value in a significant way. And that is only increasing as any number of the millennial generation, Gen Z, are far more likely to buy Bitcoin than to ever buy gold or any of these other old types of store of value type assets. So the demand, I believe, is going to increase. And with that, with only half the amount coming in to supply from about 2 o'clock this afternoon on, I believe what you're going to see is that as demand comes in, there is going to be a lot of buying pressure to push that price higher and higher and higher. And very credible people that were very early into Bitcoin have put out price targets of as much as 250,000 a couple of years. Ian and I personally believe that we think that we're going to see a new high this year and then it to get to about $50,000 sometime this year and then move past that. So those of you that have been considering going into Bitcoin, I would tell you that now is the moment to do it. Now in my Profits Unlimited service, to make it easy, we have found a way for you to buy Bitcoin using the stock market. So it takes away the complexity of having to open up a crypto account and deal with all of that stuff. Also, the taxes with crypto, with Bitcoin can be a little bit complicated. So if you want to get around all that, we have found a way for you to buy Bitcoin using the stock market. I've recommended it to my readers. We're up a little bit already, however. So if you want to get in and it's not too late, click on the strong hands above, and that will take you to a page that will give you all the details on how you can subscribe to my Profits Unlimited service, which is my flagship service. And by buying into Profits Unlimited, you also get complete access to my America 2.0 portfolio, which is filled with phenomenal, incredible stocks that are really benefiting from everything that is going on today. So that's my bold profits for you this week. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. And subscribe to, and follow me on Twitter at Mampilly Guru, and I'll have another one of these for you next week. Until then, this is Paul saying bye.